And good evening for another very special edition of Diary of a Double. This is the year-long journey of Antonio Argüelles of Mexico City, who's going to swim from England to France and then from France to England at 67 kilometers in cold, rough, foggy, no shark waters. Welcome, Antonio.
Buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches, wherever you are watching and listening to us. I hope you're doing well. Yes, Stephen. And you forgot to say no jellyfishes.
No jelly. Well, there may be one.
But we don't want jellyfishes, Stephen. You know, jellyfishes and I don't get along very well.
Yeah. And, you have your protectors.
Yes.
Dragon, the pirate.
Yeah, my dragon, my seal, my parrot. No, we're all covered, and so I'm very excited, Stephen, because this week, following the idea of Diary of a Double, I started a podcast. So I started with my podcast this week, and you know what was really interesting is that when I said it, I told them people how frustrated I was last year and all the troubles, and people really got into it. I mean, they really appreciated me talking about the difficulties that you have as a person. I mean, I guess it was one really funny one that says, well, I never thought you had mixed feelings. I always thought you didn't have any troubles. I said, yes, I have a lot of troubles. I mean, I just don't talk about them too much. But it has been an interesting week. And also I have a surprise, Stephen.
Yes.
You're not there yet, but we're gonna start producing a child's book on Monday.
Oh, wow. Nice.
We're gonna have one for Christmas.
Wow, that's quick.
It's gonna be a child's book for children between 8 and 10 years old.
Okay.
So I'm very happy about that. So that's what I've been doing this week, and a lot of Rafa told me that I was gonna be starting to taper, and it doesn't look like I'm tapering. A lot of intensity, going back to the weight room. Today I had to do 3 hours, but I have a very bad, remember you always asked me what I was going to do the quarantine?
Yes.
That has come into my mind, and it's really bad, Stephen, because as of today, you have to be in the hotel for 10 days.
Yeah.
And on day 2, you have to have a test. On day 8, you have another test. And there's something called test to release. If you take it on the 5th day and you're negative, you can stop the quarantine. So we talked to a friend of ours, David, it's a friend of us, Quinn and I couldn't believe he told us that the people at the health department would call him every day to see if he was in quarantine. Yeah. So, do you think they will? I have to find out at what time do they start working. So if I go at 5 o'clock in the morning to swim, they're not going to call at 5 o'clock in the morning. I think bureaucrats don't get that early up to go and calling people around. So for the first 5 days, I won't be able to advertise this. This is going to be a secret between us. Hopefully, the M5 is not. What is it, M19 or what's the?
Yeah. James Bond, guys.
James Bond is not listening. To our conversation. But that's my plan. I have to sneak in the morning very early and go swimming, and so I'll report on that. But that's what is in my mind these days, Stephen.
Yeah, good. So we were going to talk about equipment today, but you actually had 2 additional things I just skipped. I mean, it's a COVID test, which is now part of every consideration for every channel swim around the world, because you're usually flying or traveling, or you have to somehow get over quarantine. And then the second is cell phone communications. And when are people going to call you? Maybe your window is 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. That's the 7 hours of the day when you are free to swim.
Yeah. The nice thing you can figure is that you will be training in the same hours you're going to be swimming.
Yeah.
So I have to look at the bright eye.
Yeah.
But now my next question was, you know how Englishmen are. how about if the police comes at 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night and I'm swimming at the beach in Dover and that's, what are you doing at this time of the day? Well, so I think it's going to be between 4 and 5. So hopefully the police will be, by that time, the police won't get up yet. But that's going to be a sneaky thing. You know, it's going to be, I will call David and ask him what time did they call him. And the other thing is, what questions did they ask? Because if I leave my phone in the hotel, I can leave it with one of my friends and tell them what the answers are. But I have to find what questions do they ask. Because if they ask my mother's name, they won't know it. So I have to do them a sheet. So that's becoming interesting. I mean, it's how we're going to go around that little corner of the health system in England.
You have to be a ninja. So we're going to have to put black instead of white lanolin, put black lanolin.
Yes.
You have a black swim cap. So when you leave the hotel, you know, just go by night goggles, and so you can find your way down, so nobody can see you.
Well, we're going to talk about caps, and I'll tell you about caps. I can have a black cap. One thing I'm going to do is those 5 first days, I won't wear the team suit. No team color. I'm going to be incognito.
Yes.
I don't want anybody to recognize me, so they don't go over to the police station.
Yeah, it's interesting. If we were talking about climbing Mount Everest or doing a marathon run or doing a triathlon, we would have a long list of equipment. But you as a channel swimmer, what equipment do you have to prepare?
Basically, I need to bring 2 swimsuits, and those are the lucky swimsuits, the ones that have gone to the most important battles. So I have one. One is blue, and the other one is pink.
Okay.
And those are going to be with me. I'll have 3 pairs of goggles, one for night and 2 for day swimming. And you know what? Those goggles need to be adjusted because I can't have the light in the back. So I have to adjust them before I swim, because otherwise, if I put it without adjusting them, they're too tight, and I start having headache at the beginning, in the middle of my swims. So I have to do that. And then the third thing that I need to bring with me is a swim cap. But that's under debate right now. We're gonna see once I arrive in Dover how cold the water is. And if it's nice, I might try to go without cap. I've been training without a cap. The next time I'm going to San Francisco, I'm gonna do that. I took my cap the other day, not for too long. We'll see what happens. But if not, I'm gonna have a dragon cap.
Okay.
The next time before I leave, I'll you know what, I will keep Suzanne. You know, the people who have been in the show every week. Karen, I'll send you a couple of caps with the dragon and the parrot and the sensei. You get one, Stephen, too, a queen also. So I can have, but if I have to swim with a cap, it will be with a dragon cap.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's very cool. Very cool.
Antonio, your cap, I just want to comment on it. The thing I liked about the WOWSA caps, it has this or WOWSA caps, it has a little bit of ribbing around it.
Yeah.
And I really like that because it stays on, because sometimes some of them pop off, and I haven't been able to find any others that have ribs except for yours. Those WOWSA caps. I don't know whether it's yours or whose it is, but it's the ones that said WOWSA on it, and it has those ribs, which I find really good to stay on my head. So feedback.
Suzanne, you didn't read the book well enough. I mean, I made a lot of money selling goggles and selling swimsuits. And when, you know, maybe I didn't say that in the book. You know what happened? Well, ask me the question, Stephen. Otherwise, I'm just going to go off the rail, and then you don't have any questions.
Yeah. So you have swim caps, and Suzanne's preference is with the ribs, so it stays on. Now, under English Channel rules, you're only allowed one cap, correct? Not two caps, not a thermal cap.
Yes,
Yeah. And then goggles, you have
yes,
two,
just one
two
cap.
types of goggles. You have the light ones for the day and I'm sorry, light ones for night and maybe darker for day. Is that how you do it?
Yeah, I change goggles once the sun is up. I change goggles because otherwise, at some point during the day you can have the sun in your face,
Yeah.
and it's very uncomfortable. So I change it to the tinted ones, and those and I always have an extra pair if anything happens. I mean that's
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I always I'm always prepared for that.
Yeah.
Now, the big question is whether I'm going to use the pink suit or the blue suit.
Oh, wait. Let's go back to goggles because you, me, and Suzanne remember the days when the goggles were very simple. There was only a few types of goggles. Now there's all kinds of goggles. They're that I've never been able. Those little Swedish goggles that are just pure plastic, and then there's the big goggles that like a face mask. Which type do you prefer?
I prefer the medium ones.
Medium ones. Okay. Yeah.
That give me a peripheral view.
Yes.
And they are, I can't remember who they. I know the style is Kaiman. I think it's I can't remember what's the brand. What's really interesting, Stephen, is that Speedo lost that battle with the goggles.
Yes.
That's really interesting because in our days, I remember when I started swimming, Suzanne and I and you too, it was so painful coming back at night, and your eyes hurt so much.
And you saw the rainbows around.
Yeah, there was nothing that could cure your eyes. I mean, nothing. You would just, like all the time, you would just, you had tears in your eyes. My mom used to put us chamomile tea in our eyes, but that didn't work. I mean, I used to do the chamomile deal, and it never worked. And then this is really interesting, because remember the first big goggles that Speedo had?
Yes.
They went from the little ones to the big ones. The world is the pros. So Bill Lee comes to Mexico, and I guess this is a couple of I think it probably was about a year before the Pan American Games in '75. So he prints some prototypes. And that day he had dinner with Dick Beaver, who was then the national coach in Mexico. And the next morning, Dick Beaver arrives at the pool with the Speedo goggles. And they were just amazing. I mean, everybody in the team was just going, in the national team was just going, wow. So I can never forget that. Dick says, we're going to have a 200. And whoever improves the most on his or her 200 will get the goggles. So I did get the goggles. And it was so nice because I got the goggles and then everybody wanted the goggles. So I had a bid, and whoever paid more for the goggles, they got the goggles.
Yeah.
So, you always have to find, have to make money. I mean, in those days I was poor. So I needed to find ways. And then we started importing them. When we started printing the goggles, remember the ones that had the shiny ones?
Yeah.
They were like silver.
Yeah.
Those were very tough to import because as you remember, we didn't bring them in boxes and all nice. So they used to scratch. So we had to be very careful with those. Those were a pain. And then the other thing that was really bumming is that, remember that the neoprene would go away. I mean, the neoprene, they didn't have the right combination. I mean, it's and then when finally we started producing in Mexico, one of the big problems with the goggles is that you have to have high quality lenses. So you have to have the molds need to be optic definition. And I remember my brother Raul, who's an engineer, he was in charge of production, and we talked so much about it. And he would explain to me that, and it was the first time we raised money for an investment in the mold, because the molds are very expensive. But we decided that we would do that. But then this is the beauty about trade. we found somebody in Taiwan who would sell us the goggles, and that was cheaper to have the goggles made, just the goggles made in Taiwan, bring them to Mexico, assemble them in Mexico, and then selling them.
Yeah.
And you know a funny thing, if you go today to buy the goggles for kids, there's some goggles that have a lot of colors.
Yeah.
The silicone ones.
Yeah.
So in those days, my Jimena and his her cousins had to work in the factory over the summer. You know, in order to go for vacations with my mother, they usually go 2 weeks to Acapulco, to the house in Acapulco. They have to work 1 week here. So one of my nephews got a lot of colors into the silicone, and they mixed them. And so suddenly we had this mix of for the silicone, and we started making them. And Speedo just we couldn't patent it, but it's when Speedo saw it, they copied us and did that.
Oh, wow.
So that was my road with the goggles. And now I use I think they're Aquasphere, the ones that I like are Aquasphere.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is I don't know about materials anymore, but they're made out of silicone. All the thing is silicone, so they seal very well.
Yeah.
And that's an important thing. And with the caps, the first caps, remember, there were the latex caps.
Yes.
And one of the things about the latex caps is that how you print latex caps, and it's not that straightforward.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember 𝐭𝐞𝐞𝐯.
Yes.
He was the vice president of Speedo, Kurt, very good friend of mine. He introduced me to a gentleman called Dan Train. And Dan Train was the one making swimming caps and printing swimming caps down in California.
Oh, okay.
So we were partners, and we started printing caps in Mexico, and it was a whole thing. But then the caps were coming from Malaysia, and some of the things that we do in the veterinary business have to do with silicone, with latex. So at that time, Raúl again and my father at that time helped him. They said, well, let's make our own silicone caps. And so we don't, because it was a lot of beauty, and caps are really heavy. I mean, you bring caps from Malaysia, they're very heavy. So we started doing caps, and we did we did latex caps. We had an oven, it's incredible, the oven and the whole production. And then silicone caps came around. And when we looked at the silicone caps, I always test the products because I was always the one who would be doing sports. And I would say, I have a big head, not because I have a big head thinking that I'm big. I just naturally a big head. So don't misunderstand me. I don't want to think that I have a big head.
Your skull is big.
Yeah, my skull is big. My skull is big. Yeah. So I would say it hurts. The Speedo caps, the latex caps, any regular cap really hurt. And what Suzanne was saying is they would go off.
Yeah.
So I said, we have to do something that's more comfortable, and we put the ribs.
Yeah.
And then we started doing the latex, the silicone caps, latex caps, and printing.
Got it.
And it came to the time when none of the children wanted to keep with the business. So we said, let's help my parents and see if our parents want to do it. So for some years, my parents did it, but then it was very complicated because to be competitive, you had to go and do a lot of sales calls and stuff like that. And so we decided that we weren't going to be, as a family, we were not going to be involved with that anymore. But for us, it's very easy to say, let's just shut the shop and it's gone. I mean, we'll do all the things. But we had people working for us for many years, and it was their livelihood. So if we close the factory, they will be unemployed. Even if we pay them severance, they would be unemployed. So we went to them and said, look, let's make a deal. You won't get severance. We'll give you the whole factory. You can have all the material. We'll give you money for your inventories for the first 6 months. And the only thing that we want is we want to keep the trademark of Sport Edition, and you can have the factory. So they said yes. They kept the factory, and the reason I have all the caps the way I want is because we still somehow, we don't own it anymore in terms of being involved in the production. But the old employees are still there, so I just call them up and they have my caps made, and they're always very, very happy to make caps for me, and in all colors. So Suzanne, anytime you need Suzanne, Karen, anytime anybody needs caps, just let me know and we'll make caps. We're very happy to make caps.
That's great. That's great. So the other big thing that we have in open water swimming, or especially channel swimming, is your Escort boat. And next week, I'd like to talk about your Escort captain and Escort pilot, and everybody will be on the boat. But the question I have for this week is, what side of the boat do you prefer to be?
On the left side.
On left side. And
because I only breathe on my right side.
Right. Now, what happens with the boat in that position, and let's say the sun is coming or there's glare? Do you ever tell the boat to move around, or do you go on the other side of the boat, or it's always same place?
Always there, always there. You know, my biggest fear doing Tsugaru, when I went to Tsugaru, was how it's going to be Tsugaru.
Yeah.
And so I went online and looked at the boat, and I said, I love that boat. That should be a standard. I mean, the captain can go, because it's a relatively small boat. Yeah. They can go on both sides. I mean, he can just look at both sides. But what is beautiful is the lining that underneath. Yeah. So you're swimming, Suzanne. Have you seen those pictures, Suzanne?
It's called the
next week. We should. Let's see if I can have a video. Maybe you have a video, Steven. They have a rod, and then it comes a thing, and they have a cloth underneath. So it looks like you are following the lane in the swimming pool. You don't have to look at the boat. You look at the cloth, and it's white, and it's like following the lane in the pool.
Yeah, and do you know why that is there?
No, why, Steven?
Sharks.
In Tsugaru?
Yes, big. They are huge, great white sharks in Tsugaru. So your boat captain, your boat captain was a tuna fisherman. They always know how many sharks are in the channel, because when they pull up the nets and the tuna have big bites out of them, they know the great white sharks are there. And what they do is that big, they call it a swim streamer. It's very big. And when the sharks see that, they don't go attack the fish in the nets.
Well, Steven, that's a very good story for Tsugaru. I would never have imagined that nobody knows
promote that and say there are great white sharks you're swimming over. I don't think we'll have many people doing it.
I won't tell anybody. I won't tell anybody, because God, that's really interesting. I never thought, Tsugaru. What Tsugaru meant for me is it's a lot of wind. But I never, a lot of wind. I mean, that's the deal.
So when the Japanese Navy was in World War II, and they had some Navy people go in the water, maybe they were fighting with the Americans, etc. Well, the Japanese were always told to put their clothes in a line and to go under them. So the sharks would see some big thing in a horizontal way. And if the sharks see this big thing above them, they don't attack.
Well, that's a new line, Steven, because when the people tell me that I am big and fat, I can say, well, the shark won't attack me. They look at me and they say, no, that guy, I won't get a pull around with that guy.
Yeah. Well, it's the same way that when a shark would look at an orca or something much bigger than it. A shark is the king of the sea, except for large things. The
Okay.
sharks are actually very, they're smart. They don't want to eat something big and huge. They want to go after the slow, the old, the little things. So this is, Tsugaru Channel has lots and lots of big, big sharks.
Wow. That's a big story.
Yeah.
That's
So the
big.
swim streamer was actually, it was recommended by the Japanese Coast Guard. A Japanese Coast Guard, when they were saying, well, we're going to start taking people across, they said, well, you got a lot of sharks there, but why don't we do the Japanese method of the swim streamer? And that's how it came about. And the first or major escort captain, he created this thing that's perfect for a swimmer to keep them safe, but also in your case, to keep you next to the boat.
Yes, he was. What was the name of the captain? Captain
Miyashima.
Miyashima. What an interesting person. Obviously, I don't speak Japanese. He didn't speak Spanish or English, but just looking at him, and the feeling that I had with him is that he was very calm and he really knew what to do. He really was very, you know,
Because it's not that the channel, as you know, is not that wide. It's a roughly 20 kilometers from the closest 2 points. It's roughly 20 kilometers. And all the fishermen in that area, the little port where you had right at the edge, the northern part, all the fishermen, their only place that they go is that 20-kilometer area. They don't go way out to Pacific Ocean. They don't go even to the other side of Japan. That is their area. So they know that, like you and I know our garden.
yeah, that's the feeling. Suzanne, if you want to do, now that you're going to go back into open water swimming, because Suzanne is doing a big swim event next month. You got to do Tsugaru. You know why you got to do Tsugaru? Not only because of doing Tsugaru, but the experience that you have in Tapi, at the hotel in Tapi, it's an immersion in Japanese.
I love.
You say what, Stephen? Culture, way of life. I mean, it's so enchanting for me. I just think that I want to go when I think I want to go back, and the idea that I'm going to spend 2 or 3 weeks there, it's like it's heaven. I mean, it's something that I really, really want to do again because it's so beautiful, so calm. There's nothing. I mean, you won't find anything. I mean, the nearest food store is about an hour ago, an hour away. I mean, it's
yeah. So I think this is a good way to end this, because next week, Antonio, I want you to talk about Michael Oram and who was your first pilot across the English Channel?
always Mike.
Oh, it was Mike. And your second one?
Mike.
Oh, you've only had Mike. Okay.
Yeah. The first time I met Mike Oram, I had a previous date which I couldn't make because there was a big hurricane in Mexico, and whole Chiapas, Oaxaca, it was flooded, and so the Minister of Education calls me and said, "We gotta go. The president wants you to go and be there with all your team and the things that we could do." And I said, "Well, Miguel," his name is Miguel Limon, said, "Miguel, I'm leaving in 3 days for the English Channel." I said, "Well, do you want to call the president and tell him that you have something more important things to do, that go and do what he wants?" Yeah. He said, no, it's fine, that's fine. So I didn't go and I couldn't swim. So I called Mike Oram and said, "Look, I mean, we have this problem." And I said, "But I'll go next year." So I tell Nora, next year I'm gonna go and try to do a double, and let's train for a double. So I trained for a double, and this is Mike Oram. This is a lot of the captains. He takes a look at me and says, "You really think you're gonna do a double?" And I said, "Well, I've trained for a double. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, but I've trained." Had I not trained for that, I would not have never finished my first channel, because the channel was 18 hours and 19 minutes. It was a very tough and complicated day. And then the second, so I got a little bit of respect from him that time. So the next time I go, and we are at the last day. I mean, there's no more time. I mean, and this is the finishing of the Triple Crown in one season, okay? So this is it's like, if I don't do it, it's gonna be gone. And he was really, really gracious, because he said, look, I mean, the ocean is really bad right now. I think it's gonna get better. I'll make you a deal. Go in for 2 hours, and if you don't feel comfortable, we'll come back and I won't charge you anything.
Yeah.
So I have a deal, and let's go. And almost at the 2 hours, the sea calmed down and I was able to finish. And he was, just imagine, Oran. I mean, he's like no expression. He was cheering me in writing notes for me while I was swimming. So I appreciate him. And I wrote him an email 3 days ago, and as any good captain, he hasn't responded.
But I want to wait till next week to talk about Mike Oram stories, because I think that's going to be a whole 3 hours of interesting things.
Yes, we'll do that next week.
Yeah.
And one thing we need, I would like to talk, Stephen, is let's do that about the captain. But another thing which I would like to talk is, once you start tapering, what's happening in your mind? Because I think that's something that I want to hear what Karen, what Suzanne, what you or anybody else, Quinn or anybody else that joins us, because it's a very fascinating time. Because, for example, today I went to the river, to Las Estacas, and I did, we have labs that Rafa and I have decided that there are things that we can measure. And I had my best ever in life in one of the segments. My previous one was 8 minutes and 32 seconds, and today was 7 minutes and 38 seconds.
Wow.
And,
Nice.
and this anticipation of what's going to happen. It's when you start feeling well, and then you think, is this feeling of wellness going to keep until day 0 or day 1?
Yeah.
So that's another thing we should talk about. But you didn't ask me one last question, Stephen. You didn't ask me about the swimsuit.
Yes.
I would never wear a jammer. Never. I grew up with Speedo, and I would never wear anything but Speedos. Yeah. Never. I always wear a Speedo, and the problem with Speedo today is that they don't have only one size. They have like these little things. And the other day I bought, and I put that on, and I said, no, I can't go out with this. I mean, I need, the little bigger. I mean, I don't have the body to just go with a little thing. Yeah. But now I don't know how you buy. Yeah, don't laugh, Suzanne. I mean, that happens now that you have to, when you go buy a swimsuit, it's not as straightforward as before. I mean, now you go buy a men's swimsuit and have 3 different sizes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. There's something outside, so they're so loud. That's great. Then we will. Suzanne has some Mike Oram stories. I think Quinn, we need to tell people about Mike Oram stories, and
that's a great topic.
Yeah, it is a really great topic.
Join us. Yeah, tell them to join us.
Yeah. All right, Antonio, I see your beard, so you're ready, getting ready. So let's go.
Getting ready, my pirate look.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Good luck. Let's go.
Next week.
Good seeing you guys. Take care.
Bye.